and welcome to the Blank Podcast, the podcast where we delve into those frustrating moments with some well-known people. And I'm Jim Daly, not a well-known person, but a well-known person is sitting to my right. It's Mr.
We've had this
Bailey.
conversation before. I don't think I am well-known.
I think you are.
I'm well-known in a not very well-known way, which makes no sense whatsoever.
That sounds like an autobiography title.
Yeah.
Well-known in a not well-known way. Giles Bailey for this story.
Yeah. Hey, Jim, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm really good. How are you?
I'm all right, yeah. I'm quite red in the face today.
Are you?
Yeah.
I think it's just the lighting.
I think I'm a bit warm, a bit flushed.
Yeah, a bit... okay, yeah.
Yeah. Don't know why, but anyway, yes.
You look great.
Thanks. Likewise.
When is this going out? It's New Year?
Yeah.
Is it the first one?
Yeah.
Well,
Can be.
You don't look flushed, but may I offer you Happy New Year greetings?
Well, Happy New Year to you too, kind sir. Did you have a good Christmas?
I did. Yeah,
Good.
really good Christmas. It was, lovely.
First Christmas with your baba.
First Christmas with our little one.
Yeah.
She obviously won't remember any of it, but we
Oh, you say that.
I think having a child that young, the Christmas is great for you. It's all about you, really.
Yeah,
so it was great for us to dress her up in ridiculous outfits.
Of course.
But she won't remember it, but it was lovely. Yeah.
Good.
And the family were very excited.
Yeah,
as
well,
you can
yeah, it's
imagine.
nice.
So,
It's lovely having.
it
Yeah,
was
Christmas
great.
becomes extra special when you have children.
Yeah.
I think.
I can't wait till she's old enough to actually understand it.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Well,
That's
it
gonna be
doesn't take long,
incredible.
man.
And then I get to dress up as Santa and all that. Oh, I can't wait.
Peep around the bedrooms at night.
And all that creepy stuff. Nah, it's going to be great. How was your Christmas?
It was good. Yeah, really nice. Thank you. Yeah, very chilled, and spent it with my brother and his family. So yeah, it was very nice.
Lovely. Well, we hope our listeners had a good Christmas. And as a present, is you like that link? Is that okay? No. We've got a wonderful guest.
We have.
To kick off 2020. It's the legendary Ben Miller.
Ben Miller, brilliant Ben Miller, who's obviously very well known for his comedy show with Alexander Armstrong.
Yeah, Armstrong and Miller.
Yeah.
Well, Armstrong and Miller.
I mean, he's not just for that. I mean, he's a prolific actor in his own right.
We sort of, as we sort of glean from the pod, bit of an all-rounder. Does lots of different things.
Lots of writing as well.
Good at all of them.
Yeah, and he's been very successful recently with. He's got a couple of children's books, which are excellent. So yeah, a real all-rounder.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was a great pod. Really enjoyed talking to him.
Yeah.
And I think we should just crack on with it. Dive straight in. This is Ben Miller on the Blank Podcast.
Well, Ben Miller, welcome to the Blank Podcast.
Thank you so much. It's lovely to be here.
Yeah, thank you for coming. We're in the Nordic Bar. Yes.
Yeah, the Nordic Bar.
Yeah, there's some interesting animals on the walls.
That's the first thing you notice, is it?
It is.
An incredibly fruity aroma.
It's very on brand.
Greeted me as I came down the stairs. Yeah. It feels like a good night's entertainment lingers on.
Yes. Yeah, it just lingers for out.
It's a particular smell, isn't it? I'm giving it a sort of really heavy base of beer, basically.
Yeah.
But then a really nice urine top note. Just a tiny little, and just a tiny little tweak of
shame.
Yeah, shame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Little bed.
Yeah, base notes of shame.
Yeah,
Good name for a band.
Top note. No, I just think I'm getting a little bit.
What,
of
top note of
vomit.
shame?
Just at the top there. Can you get that little bit of vomit? Just
Yeah.
Oh, it's just on the tip of my tongue.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's really good.
That's a terrible place for it to be, I think, on the tip of your tongue.
It is. Yeah. You were asking before, actually, why the Nordic theme, and I don't know, actually. Do you know why?
No, I've never asked
I think
anybody.
it's run by a Viking.
Yeah, I think it is, yeah.
That's right.
Very proud Viking.
Well, why not? I mean, you've had every...
Well, Vikings have a good, they have a good sort of brand.
They do.
For bars, because it's basically having it large.
Yeah.
Going out, they don't stay home, they go out.
Yeah,
that's
Basically,
true.
They go out, they maraud.
They do.
I'm imagining that involves a bar.
Yeah.
Yeah, it must do.
Not often their own bar.
No.
But they maraud in a bar.
Yeah, in other people's bars.
And there's a fair amount of Vomit in
Debauchery.
urine.
I was going to say debauchery, yeah.
It is a strong brand.
Now, you see, I disagree
Yeah.
with that. I don't think that is part of the Vikings.
No, you don't think debauchery is?
No.
They've got...
I think they're not particularly debauched. They're very much... it's very smash and grab, Vikings.
Yeah, in and out.
Debauched. It's quite organised.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rowing the line.
That is
Lars,
true, actually,
You're out of step.
Yeah.
Keep it together, man. Keep it together,
God
man.
damn it, Lars.
Just another 600 miles till we get to Northumberland.
We can get some beers.
Yeah. Very
Yeah.
organised.
And they've
Yes.
got a very-
Deceptively organised.
And a very strong hat game.
Enormous hat game.
Yeah.
Apparently they didn't have... Apparently there's this thing about the horns on the things.
That's not... That's a
not true.
fallacy, is it?
That's an
No
I don't know
way.
about that.
Maybe that wasn't the right word to use.
But they're made
Yeah.
up, the horns.
Oh, no
I don't know
way.
who made them up. Probably people in bars like this.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, you know what you're lacking.
Yeah.
Horns.
Do you know what I'm going to invent now I'm out marauding? Is
Yeah.
a Viking's name that never marauded, incredibly. I'm going to invent a hat with horns on it.
Yes.
Usually a hat with horns on it is a bad thing.
Well, you'd think so, wouldn't you?
Archetypally, that's like,
Yeah.
you want to wear a hat with horns on. That's making a fool
And
of
yet
you. But
somehow-
Viking, you're right, that look. It's very
Synonymous.
synonymous.
with the Nordics.
I think this is the most I've ever talked about Vikings in my life.
Well, I kind of feel bad because I brought it up, really. Didn't I?
Anyway, Ben, you were born in London.
Seamless.
Yeah.
You can tell we've done a lot of these podcasts.
Vikings are people, you're a person.
Yeah. Segways are not our strong point.
That was beautiful.
Born in London,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. Born in Stoke Newton. Yeah. Well, not born. Born in. Grew up in Stoke Newton.
Yeah.
Family lived in Stoke Newton. Born at St Bart's, Sound of Bow Bells. I think I can legitimately claim myself to be Cockney.
Yes.
Maybe.
Oh.
Yeah.
I believe that's the criteria.
That's the criteria, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
So do you feel Cockney then? Is it in the blood?
Yeah. Strike a light.
That was more Viking than Cockney.
Oh,
Yeah.
dear, yeah. Well, I'm now staggering down the apples there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was on the right chewing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a no then.
I don't feel very Cockney. I do feel like I think I have London in my blood, though,
Yeah.
for sure. You know, that was kind of. I feel like.
You feel
although
comfortable
we
here?
moved from London when I was very
Yeah.
small, but my family are all from. My father's family are all from London. They are all, sort of EastEnders. My grandfather had shops in the East End, and my father worked in them, and
What kind of
that
shops?
side of the family. Tailor's shops.
Okay.
So my grandmother was a seamstress, and my grandfather started with tailor shops, and then he sort of expanded. Really, I mean, it was kind of. He had a shop for pretty much everything. He had a butcher's shop, he had a greengrocer's, he had a
Viking hat.
he used to make Viking hats, which somehow went down gangbusters
He started that chain.
in post-war Bethnal Green. Yeah, I mean there was just all the rage. The craze
They had
often
good
wouldn't
suits
be.
then, did they?
Did they have?
Did they have good suits? Was
Yeah, good food. I mean, good everything.
Yeah.
Good food, good suits. That's the great thing about run a shop. I remember we used to go to, when we used to go and stay with them at Christmas. I was always like really impressed with the toys that they had. There was always like outrageous. There's a lot of the Miller side of the family. There's it's slightly complicated because I have my Auntie Debbie is younger than me.
Okay. One of those families.
So it's my Uncle Martin.
Yeah.
And my Uncle Graham recently passed away. My uncles, my Uncle Steve, my Uncle Raymond. They all. We would visit them all at Christmas, and there would be like a mountain of toys. That's what I remember, and all the latest stuff. I felt like that was a kind of.
What was
Did my
the big
parents
toy?
buy us toys? I don't know. I think we would get a book by Dickens.
The lump of coal.
Yeah.
Oh, I met someone recently that actually gave their child a lump of coal for Christmas.
That's probably quite a.
Because they were actually really naughty.
Their first Christmas.
Who
Is that
told
not a
me that?
tradition?
No, it's because they'd been particularly bad.
Oh,
But, yeah,
okay.
so they
How
actually
did that
gave them a
play
lot
out
of- I don't
from there?
They'd
Did the
asked for an
child
Xbox.
reform their wicked ways?
I'm not sure it would. I also heard one of the guys on my football team said that when his children are bad at Christmas, he wraps up presents, then he wraps up a few of empty boxes in wrapping paper, and if they're particularly bad, he takes one of the boxes and throws it in the fire.
Wow.
And I don't know if that's genius or like psychological warfare.
It's psychological warfare. I think it's called
that's
child abuse. Is
I
what
think
that's.
it probably is borderline
That's cool.
child abuse. I don't know if it
Yeah.
I don't know if it
Yeah.
works or not, but
And then he drinks their tears that he's like collected in a more
Well, I mean,
small
the
receptacle.
thing is, we know pretty much anything works, right? Because, I mean, there was a time, corporal punishment in schools. I mean, I remember I used to get, I imagine you two, a little younger than me, but I used to, you'd get the cane. You'd go to the headmaster's office and he would cane you on the hand. He would take a stick and hit you over the hand.
So you had that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it was just phasing out, when I was I was at secondary school, but it still happened, and that worked.
Oh, it
fine.
did?
Yeah, people were fine. People turned out fine. Yeah, I mean, I got a cane. I'm fine. I mean,
well, I've got a nearly 11-week-old daughter, so I'm taking tips for anyone that wants. I don't think the cane.
maybe not caning. Maybe not go straight to caning. Just sort of build up.
Start by
Throwing the toys in the fire.
Throw her toys in the fire.
Lump of
Yeah,
coal,
I think mental
build
torture first, and then physical punishment later on. I'm sure she'll turn out. fine.
She'll be fine.
Yeah. How old is
She'll
she?
be great. She's nearly 11 weeks.
She's got
11
ages.
weeks old.
Yeah.
What are you doing here?
It's a
That's why you've got that slightly crazed.
Yeah, that explains
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
11 weeks
Yeah.
old.
Although
Wow.
weirdly, I was saying to Giles, I feel like I've known her forever. It's so odd,
Yes.
and I can't
Yeah.
actually remember life without her, and she's only been here.
That is
Yeah,
amazing
well,
how
it's a
quickly it
human
happens, yeah.
soul, isn't it?
It's-
I mean, there's something eternal about
It's
that.
crazy.
It's an extraordinary
Yeah.
thing to be in the presence of, isn't it? Kind of. I think those are extraordinary times as well. When somebody is just the very beginning of life and the very end of life, they're very incredibly powerful times, aren't they? You know, it's an extraordinary thing to witness somebody who wasn't alive 11 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Or was, but
Yeah,
You
but it's
wasn't
now
born.
here, and you can see her learning. She's just learned to
Yeah,
grab
yeah.
things,
Yeah,
including my chest hair when I hold her, which is very painful.
Yeah.
But working out all these things, it's
Yeah.
Oh, it's crazy.
And that's the weird thing is we don't really come we don't come pre-programmed. I think we sort of come we come with a lot of with a lot of disposition, but we don't come with a lot of actual facts, do we? So it's basically like finding like basic stuff out, isn't it? The first thing, like, I'm amazed. Basically, for the first year of its life, a child tries to kill itself in as many different ways as it could possibly imagine. So, 11 weeks, she's quite limited in the number of ways she can, harm herself. But as soon as she can crawl, then she'll be trying to crawl off the changing table onto the floor, despite the fact that it's like 5 feet and she'll break a leg. I mean, it really is. It does become a kind of you're in the last. You're the last line of defence, and you're just stopping your child from doing stupid things to themselves.
Oh, I'm aware of that every day. That I've got this massive responsibility.
Mine are 10 and 12, and still having that thing.
Yeah. It's true. I thought I'd fire an arrow at him, Daddy. I thought I'd fire an arrow at him and see if he could stop it. Yeah, you're just like, you did what?
Only one way to find out.
Yeah.
But we are. Is it true that we're the only? Sorry, I've just gone off on a real tangent, and I apologise because I started it. We're the only.
Well, you can't do that on your podcast.
Exactly.
True. Very
I
nice.
don't know.
But we are the only species that, when they're born, can't walk or something like that.
Really?
It's why they call the first 3 months the fourth trimester, because technically the baby should still be in the womb learning.
Well, isn't the idea that we are now all born immature, right? So that because it's something to do with because our brains got so large that basically if we waited till we're full term we wouldn't be able to give birth, and even now we sort of struggle, right? It's not a straightforward thing, human childbirth. I mean, it's pretty straightforward, but there are, compared to other animals, there seem to be like a number of complications. Like it hardly fits out in and out.
The beautiful way of putting it.
Yeah, and there's that we are basically still, we should still be in utero, right, for those 3 months. It
Yeah.
made more sense if we were.
Yeah, it would do.
Yeah.
So you moved up north when you were younger.
Yes, was that?
That's just taking another bad segue.
Yeah.
That's how we do it on this podcast. Sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, so you did physics. Yeah.
You were a baby once. Tell me about that. Oh God, you thought we'd have got better at these podcasts. How many are we? 50 in now? But
It's okay.
we're not. It's part of our charm.
I think something's working, so don't question it.
I don't know what it
As long as you
is.
feel relaxed and at ease, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh,
exactly.
I'm hearing myself, but
But isn't that the beauty of podcasts compared to say going on the radio or even like or TV interviews? That they have become so purposed,
Yes,
haven't they?
absolutely,
They've become
yeah.
so kind of the segments are so. I mean, literally, they'll say to you, "Okay, so you've got 2.5 minutes,
Yeah.
and then afterwards we'll come to you for a further minute and probably, maybe 45 seconds if we." I mean,
Yeah.
it really is. Like,
Please cram
you
in
sort of think
all
to
the
yourself,
information about your new show or your whatever it is, your new book or whatever.
And you think, okay, great.
Yeah.
So I'll probably just wing that then.
I hope for the best.
it's a good life skill. That is a
Yeah.
good thing about these pods. Actually, I think you got a bit longer with someone to sit down. You can explore things, and you get to sort of. Because I guess with those TV interviews and stuff, you don't really get to know the presenter or the producer
No.
or anyone. But with this, you kind of get to.
No, in fact, they're almost designed so that you don't.
Yeah.
Aren't they? Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Do you enjoy doing those kind of things?
I do. Yeah. I don't want to
Yeah.
give the impression I don't.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
do. I really enjoy. Because I mean, basically, sort of my sort of annual. It's like I spent a lot of time writing, and I'm on my own, and then I get the, and then I get a chance to get out of the house, meet people, and I really enjoy it. So, but I only ever do it in quite short, focused chunks. Do you know what I mean? So I think if you were kind of doing the US presidential thing and sort of campaigning all the time, I think that would get a bit wearing. But it's always got huge novelty value.
Well, that is one of the
for
things
me.
of being a performer, isn't it? Because you can be working on something and writing. It's like if you're a sort of gigging club circuit comedian, the only time you then go and talk to a single other human being is when you're on stage.
Yeah.
So actually,
And they can't talk back, which is perfect.
and when they do, they get kicked out. Which is ideal. But I guess that sort of comes with the territory, doesn't it? Being a comedian and a performer.
Yes, yeah, and it's part of what I like about it. 'Cause I really like the sort of. I like both. I like the solitary part, and I really, really like the social part as well. Yeah, I mean, I think that's. I think it would get. Mind you, if you don't like the solitary part, you can work on. You can still write, but write as part of a team or do stuff like that. So I also enjoy those things as well. I quite enjoy collaborative writing with lots of different people. I always find that really, really. I find that really, really fun. But. No, it's just nice. As I say, it's nice to be out of the house. This is a very fluffy microphone.
It is.
That's how I feel as well.
It's our Don King. mic,
Don King.
isn't it?
Is it what?
Like Don King.
Don
Don King, the boxing promoter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah, it's very similar
There's no. Okay. Right. Good.
But so going back to performing, that wasn't necessarily going to be your path because you
No, absolutely
studied
not. No,
physics and
I
you
sort
were
of
an
discovered
academic.
it. I did. I discovered it later in life. So I was wanting to become an academic. I wanted to be an academic scientist, actually, or something along those lines. Actually, what I was really interested in was philosophy of science. So I started a. I'm terrible. I got very distracted, really, because I wanted to do a degree in philosophy of science, but then when I was doing the physics part of it, I really started to really enjoy that. So then I thought, I'll do physics. And then I started my PhD in physics, and then I started doing some comedy. And then I thought, actually, no, this is much more me.
How did that come about? The comedy, though,
I
was it just
think-
like an extracurricular thing you could.
Well,
do,
I'd always
like an
loved
outlet
it.
For you.
I'd always loved. I always went to see. We went to see lots of play. My parents were English teachers, so I read a lot when I was growing up. We'd go and see lots of plays, lots and lots of plays. Because whenever they took the kids to a play, I'd get to go along as well. So, saw lots and lots of theatre and loved that. And my father also really loved comedy, so I watched lots, and it was the only thing I was. My parents, I mean, they are. They're very individual, you know, and they had this kind of. So we weren't really allowed to watch much TV unless it was comedy. So I got this incredible love of comedy really early on.
What were the kind of shows you were watching?
I could watch anything if it was comedy.
Okay.
So Monty Python, Benny Hill. I mean, literally anything. I'd been allowed to watch anything, but nothing else.
Indoctrination.
Yeah, because you know they said what was on TV was rubbish.
Wow, you got a real sort of comedy schooling.
Yeah, so I got a
Yeah.
fantastic comedy schooling, and then, but also if it's the main thing you're allowed to watch, then it's got an extra kind of importance for you. And we always laughed and joked a lot at home. My father was very, very funny, and you know, everything was like a comedy routine at home. So kind of that had been a thread, and then I was doing the second year of my PhD. It was a kind of really weird. Funnily enough, the National Student Drama Festival came to Cambridge, and I got a job driving the judges around, and I was listening to the sort of conversation in the background. I thought, this sounds quite good fun. And I spoke to the organisers, and they said, well, as you're driving the van, and we're not really paying you very much, so you can go to any of the workshops you want. So then I sort of went to some of these workshops, and I went to a workshop by Charlotte Keatley, the writer, and I wrote a sketch, and then they performed it at the end of this workshop, and it just went. I don't think the sketch was very good, but I loved the process of like writing it and then seeing these actors perform it.
Yeah, how did that feel? Seeing your
It was
work, you know?
I mean, it was incredible. I mean, it was. You know when you know you're in the right place. Just think,
Yeah.
oh, right, okay, I'm in the right place. This is what I'm meant to be doing. And so then I did, and I really went for it from then on. You know, I started writing lots of sketches, and I started writing comedy sketches and sending them to the Footlights Club, which is the comedy club in Cambridge, and I just kept at it really, and then eventually managed to get into the Footlights, and then start. And the Footlights is great because you do a lot of writing for other people.
Yeah.
And so it's a good sort of discipline, really. So then you come out, your first experience of writing comedy is for other people to perform, not for yourself to do. So that was kind of good. That was kind of a good training, really. And then I just thought, I'll carry on, see if I can do this. And I came out of university and got a job on a radio show, the Weekending, which I don't know if it's still going anymore. But there used to be quite a few non-commissioned writers' shows where you could just write material, and eventually it was a sort of war of attrition. Something would get past the producer, and you get something on the show, and then once you sort of got a foot in the door, I then, after writing for the non-commissioned writers, non-commissioned for a year or so, I got a commission, which I had for a couple of years, and there were amazing writers writing for it. Harry Hill was writing for Weekending then, and Al Murray was.
Wow.
Andy Riley and Kevin Tessel, who've written so much brilliant stuff. Yeah, I mean, all sorts of brilliant people that happened to be around at that time. So that was fantastic, really.
That moment of seeing your first sketch performed, and you get that sort of, this is what I'm supposed to do, this is where I fit in, this is my thing.
Yeah.
I think that's really pivotal, because I think there'll be a lot of people listening to this podcast who might not have had that moment yet.
Yeah.
Or might have missed that moment, or might have had it and thought, I can't do this. But it's really about embracing it, isn't it? And just going for it, I guess.
Yeah, I think
it's
it
difficult.
is. I think it is. I mean, I think, weirdly, I think it's very little. People talk about talent a lot, don't they? They constantly talk about talent. I mean, and I think, and I don't, you even get called talent, don't you?
Yeah.
Kind of. In a slightly piss-takey way, obviously. I mean, they're not. They say, could you bring the talent to the stage? Right. I think it's slightly ironic.
Yeah.
But I don't think my experience is that's got very little to do with it. It's more to do with the amount of time you put in and the amount of commitment you make to doing it.
Yeah.
So for example, I decided that was what I really wanted to do, and I did not leave the side of the producer of the Weekending radio show for about 3 years. I would always be there. You could go in. because the show would be recorded, say, on like whatever it was, on a Thursday to go out on the Friday. So on the Wednesday, things would get pretty tight. So despite what they commissioned or hadn't commissioned, some stuff would be working and some stuff wouldn't. So if you hung around on a Wednesday, you'd have a lot more chance of getting stuff on a Thursday. And on a Thursday morning, you were like, it was a shoe-in.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty much anything you came up with could get on the show. So, it was a kind of... And I do think there's a lot to do with that is, is getting the permission, is giving yourself the permission to do it, and it's very interesting. My college in Cambridge, funny enough, was always lowest in the academic table, and a couple of years ago I saw that they'd gone to the top of the academic table, and I remember I had I bumped into the admissions tutor from the college at an event, and I said, "What's happened to the college? It's gone from it was bottom and it's gone right to the top." And I said, "What have you done? Have you changed the admissions procedures? Are you letting in different people, or what's happened?" He said, "No, we have exactly the same admissions criteria. We just let them know it's possible for them to get the highest marks. That is it. It's psychological. And we support them in that, and we encourage them to get the highest marks. That's it."
Yeah.
I mean, I wish it were that. So, I mean, can it possibly be that simple?
That seems so obvious.
Yeah, I know, it seems very obvious, doesn't it? But
were you getting that from your producers at the show? Were you getting that encouragement? That I guess maybe getting stuff through was encouragement for you.
It was getting it through. Nothing I was writing at that point was particularly good. I wasn't particularly happy with any of it. I just felt like I wasn't very good at writing for that sort of show. It just wasn't my. Just I know I always kept thinking, well, I must be, because I could never get the ideas that I really liked on. You know what I mean? I would find that. The stuff that I thought was funny, they didn't think was funny, and I couldn't write it well enough to justify it. And I found that I'd have to write sort of they'd say, what about you'd pitch like 10 ideas, and the 2 that you liked least would be the ones that they wanted you to write, and I would write those, and they would get on the show and be not that funny, but you'd got stuff out. I mean, so I found that and I used to write for a lot of shows, not just for Weekending. I used to write for Smith and Jones, and I used to write for anything that was going, with very, very limited success, I have to say. But I mean, just enough success to, I think I had a minute commission the year after, and then I managed to get 2 minutes the year after that. It's not a huge amount of money a week. But you could just about survive on it.
But you knew it's what you wanted to do. So that decision to give up the academia was quite an easy one then.
Yeah, it was. It was really, really easy. Yeah. Although I was, like I say, for the first couple of years, I don't have a lot to show for any of it. But I knew I was doing what I wanted to do, and I think that is a real gift. If you ever find that you're in a position where you think you have a real passion for something, and that's what you should be doing, that's great. I don't have that anymore. No, I do, obviously, but
you used it all up in that moment.
No, I do. And that's really it's a fantastic thing.
Were friends and family supportive of that?
No, they were at all. I think that was. Yeah, I mean, my family thought it was a terrible idea, I know. But then you meet people who are on the same track, and you all help each other, and it's funny again. Those writers, those people that I work with now. I was looking at that. There's a brilliant show, Succession, at the moment on TV. So many of those writers again were writers from when I was starting. I saw that one of the episodes was written by Georgia Pritchett, who had one of the minute commissions on Weekending when I was doing it. It's a kind of that's the. I think it was a good time as well. I mean, the age I am was kind of the perfect age, because you'd had Monty Python stuff had been really, really popular, and we'd all loved it as children. But there were no sketch shows on at the time. There was nowhere, so we were all wanting to do sketch comedy, and the only outlet for it was things like Weekending, and we wanted to do our own sketches, our own stuff. There was nothing like that, and then we all did. So that Matt and Dave doing Little Britain and The League of Gentlemen and Sacha Baron Cohen and all this. It's all part of that. It was like a sort of pressure bulge in the pipe coming through. People wanted to. We don't want to do sketches based on like that kind of old-fashioned sort of sketches kind of thing. We didn't want to do that with a punchline and a thing. We didn't want to do all that.
Yeah.
You know, we wanted to have like weird characters and. I mean, the League of Gentlemen. I think still, I think some of the sketches that I saw them do were some of my favourite things I've ever seen. And you just think, where's this come from? What have you been reading? What have you been watching as well? It was just so fantastically atmospheric.
Yeah.
Mark Gatiss does this brilliant. He's like. He would be like a guide. You'd be in there. All the lights would go out in the theatre. You'd be in some little fringe theatre. All the lights would go out, and he'd have a torch, and he'd have a sort of hard hat on, and he'd be pointing out these stalactites and stalagmites, and doing one of the chats that they do on those sort of Yorkshire, like Cheddar Gorge or sort of Bulby Mine type things. It was absolutely. I mean, so brilliant. I remember thinking, this is exactly what we've all wanted to see,
Yeah.
It was like character comedy, but in sketches.
Speaking of which, one of my favourite sketches from the Armstrong and Miller Show, which me and my brother used to watch when we were definitely too young to watch it, was, and it's interesting, it's got the science angle, was like, you guys are in like a research theatre, and they haven't come up with anything for like 10 years, and then you come in, and you're like slagging them all off. The next person to come up with something gets steak knife. Yes. And I still text my brother now and then, that was 10 years ago, you fuck! And it's funny how these things really stick with you.
Yeah. I remember that sketch. That was such good fun.
Yeah.
Yes, it's basically sort of the sort of scientific equivalent, cancer research version of Glengarry Glen Ross.
Yeah, I drove here in a Porsche, you fucks. Look at this, it's a Rolex. What have you discovered today?
My tyre costs more than your fucking house.
Exactly.
Oh, it's so good. But just really, that's always stuck with me, that one.
Yeah. Well, I kind of like what one of the things that I've always, that I think if there needs to be a point to what you're doing. Do you know what I mean? And the point, the point obviously behind that sketch is that, this idea of society is that what we contribute, we enumerate it in one particular way, but that doesn't. Society couldn't operate. You couldn't, if you operated everything to the market, you couldn't have cancer research. Do you know what I mean? I mean, it's a kind of, and it's a sort of, and I think if there's something that makes you, one of the things that I've always felt is some of the best sketches come from a place of anger. They come from like, I'm really fucking angry about this, and how do I articulate that? Yeah. And how do I do it in a way, but also brings me complete joy?
Yeah.
Anger and joy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, great fun.
But some of the best comedy does come from that.
That's to say, not that we didn't write that sketch, by the way. No. That's written by two writers called Bert and George, George Jeffreys and Bert Tyler Moore. But the idea being, one of the reason I think it's such a good sketch and why it sort of fitted so well in our, because we had just a handful of writers that we do work with all the time on our things. And you all kind of zone in.
Yeah.
And you figure out what it is. That there has to be a point, basically. Yeah.
But I guess with your writing team, you'll have to be on the same page, don't you? You have to be...
Yeah, when we're literally in the same room most of the time. You're sort of... and you talk a lot about what it is that you want to do, what it is that you want to do and what makes... how it's going to be different to other things. Yeah, and you kind of... Not that you can theorise that much about comedy, really. I mean, because it's a bit of a sort of...
Well, also, comedy, the bottom line is it's got to be funny.
It's got to be funny, fundamentally. Yeah. That's the thing we're missing out, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's got to be really funny.
I remember people telling me when I got into comedy, they were like, oh, you've got to do this, to do this, to do that. And after a few years, I thought, no, you've just got to be funny.
Yeah.
Really.
It's got to be really funny.
There's other things around it, but if you're funny, then you'll do okay.
What's really interesting is because when things are really, really funny, there's usually some deep reason why that. I mean, the reason we find something funny is that's an interesting but it's usually the collision of two ideas, isn't it? And the deeper those ideas are, the more, the further they are in your subconscious, the funnier it's going to be.
Yeah.
But the, so for example, a man stepping on a rake is the funniest, probably the funniest thing that's at all possible, because it's the idea of death. Isn't it? It's life and death, basically, and it's pain, but it's survival. It's about survival, isn't it? It's the mammoth sat on Terry, it didn't sit on me. Do you know what I mean? It's basically the joke, isn't it? It's like comes from something really, really dark and funny. But that's the reason why I think slapstick is the funniest of. And the least, and you can't interrogate slapstick. You can't like. It's very hard to. As I've done a lot of slapstick comedy, and it's a black art. Because you can't. Whereas with the, cancer research sketch, you can think, okay, well, probably what this is the clash between, consumer-driven capitalism and selfless.
Exactly.
Selfless help of humanity, right? So there's two. Selfishness versus selflessness, right? It's basically the bottom of it. And you can kind of, and once you know that, and once somebody's written the sketch, and you can hopefully make it funnier if you can figure out what parts add to that and what parts take away, and it's same with the performance of it. What's getting in the way of that, and what's helping it. In terms of half the thing with sketch comedy on TV is like what it looks like. Probably more than half, 3/4 of it is how they're going to be dressed, what's the place going to look like, so that you don't fuck the joke up. Most of the time it's just spent not fucking it up, really. And even then you film it and you watch it back afterwards, you think it's like we purposely set out to make something unfunny. It's like we wanted to make the most comedy free piece of it. So there's no there's no guarantees in that sense. But returning to slapstick comedy, it's even harder because you really are fiddling under the bonnet, and you can't, with the hood down, you can't see what the hell's going on under there, and that's the funniest stuff. It's the stuff you can't access it, because it's so deep. It's so deep in all of us. Do you know what I mean?
And it's so innate because people will relate to it in seconds because it's almost like it triggers a feeling in them.
It triggers something,
that they can't control.
Yeah, and the best. The comedy that I love, it triggers a part of me that I didn't even know existed. Like when I saw that League of Gentlemen, Mark Gatiss do that League of Gentlemen character, and I'd probably been on one tour like that in my life, so I understood the references, and probably most people would, but it was there's something so deep about it. It's so simple. It's such a all the best comedies. It's always simple, so freaking simple. But you discover new parts of your own sense of humour that you didn't know you had. I suppose that's what I mean. It's like a kind of that really good comedy does. You kind of think, oh wow, I never even knew that was funny. And
But if you're going back to the moments where you're watching the sketch back and you think, oh, this one hasn't worked, or you're working on something and you can't quite sort of drill down to what it's about, what are you like in those moments? Do you have a process or anything like that?
I do have a process. And I'm not saying it's a good thing. I don't think it necessarily is a good thing. My inclination, probably because I was trained as a scientist, is to work and work and work and work and continue to work and continue to work. So my personal feeling is over the years that the things that work and the things that don't work, sometimes it's just really, really lucky and something comes together. But most of the time it doesn't. And sometimes work can make that thing as good as the thing that came in that just worked. Sometimes it doesn't. It will never come back. But you never know which the ones are that will be improved by work, and which are the ones that are a lost cause. You just never know. In the case of you finally get to find out when you put it in front of the audience, and you find out whether they laugh, whether they laugh or not. But then, in the case of like a sketch show, it can make such a difference as to what came before it, or how things are set up. You're always dealing with so many unknowns. It's kind of so way beyond your control most of the time, anyway. But my inclination is to not give up on it, to keep working on it, and just to see if it will eventually, will improve. And some of the things that was so problematic to start out with are some of the things that eventually. So for example, there's a sketch in one of our shows called Half Price Pots. And the premise of this sketch, it's another Bert and George sketch, actually. The premise of this sketch is that those places that sell half-price pots. You go past and say, all pots half price, 50% off all pots. Yeah. And there's a guy in the pub sitting there, and two of his friends come in and say, "You won't believe what happened to us today. We were just out on the edge of town. We saw this place selling half-price pots. We bought like a load of pots, half price." And this guy in the pub says, "Well, how do you know they're half price?" He said, "Because it said it on the sign. It's like 50% off." He said, "But you don't know what the price of a pot is to start with. So how do you know whether that's 50% off?" He said, "Look, it's just a marketing thing. They say 50% off. It's just a market. It's just marketing." And people are like, "You're a bit uptight tonight, John. What's the matter with you?" Anyway, he's being watched on a video camera. Do you know what I mean? By the people who make this sinister organisation that sell half-price pots. So, one of them is saying, "Sebastian, look, I think we've got a dissenter." And they sort of bring him in and they start torturing him and brainwashing him about half-price pots. And we couldn't think of the ending of this thing. And we nearly gave up on it so many times. We couldn't think what the ending of the sketch was. And I think it's a case where you think, well, this is such a good idea. If we keep working, we'll find an ending to it. And it didn't ever seem like we would. And we had a number of endings. We were about to shoot an ending to it we couldn't think of what the ending of that story is. It's so funny. There's got to be a brilliant ending. And sometimes really, really brilliant ideas don't have a brilliant ending. So you can't film them, and then you can't put them in the show. So we thought we really, really like, and in the end, like at the 11th hour, it was like the night before or something. We were doing it. We suddenly thought, of course, the ending is he's selling half-price pots, and he's in a garden centre. Sorry, he's in a garden centre. He's not selling half-price. Somebody comes in, and he's selling half-price pots, and a friend of his who remembers him from when is like, "Oh, Gary, how are you doing?" And he's like, I'm great. We've got some really fantastic offers over here." which was of course the right end. It's the correct ending of the whole thing. And if we hadn't worked, and if we'd given up, we wouldn't. That's one of my favourite.
It's like
sketches we've ever done. Yeah, exactly, exactly. And it was out there. It's out there somewhere, isn't there? And if you can just, and sometimes work can get you there. But equally, there's plenty of other things that we've filmed that we never thought of an ending to, that never ended up. And you go to all that effort and money and shoot all that stuff and hire, and everybody turns up at 5 o'clock in the morning to film it, and it's still not, like I say, it's like you meant it not to be funny, because you can't find that right ending. Funny, and there's nothing more frustrating than seeing something build and be funny, and then it doesn't end. And our thing was, it can never have a punchline. You can never use the punchlines, because it was a bit of one of our rules, actually. Which probably shouldn't have rules in comedy, but unless things were really, really funny. Unless the punchline was really, really funny. You shouldn't have a punchline, because that reversed the logic. So the logic had to continue, because we wanted our things to be character things, so that the character has to be doing the same thing all the way through the sketch. You can't suddenly change the character or change the logic of what they're doing. So sometimes it was... and sometimes you just can't think of an ending which ends the story and is funny and is unexpected and makes you laugh, and it doesn't always happen.
And is there sometimes almost like a bit of closure sometimes in letting an idea go?
Yeah, there is. And there's no shame in it. I think that's true. There's no shame in it. There's no shame in the fact it didn't work. It was a funny idea. We all thought it was funny. We did try it. We would try stuff out live. We would, before we did that, we'd have read-throughs. We would invite everybody, by a big crowd to read through, and you'd think it passed all these tests, and yet still there's something that you hadn't spotted, because when it's filmed and you see it just doesn't work. The visualization, somehow it doesn't work. Somehow it wasn't a visual joke, basically.
And that's just life, isn't it?
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah, I think, there is no. Yeah, I mean, I think as long as you're, because it works for you just as often the other way, which is that thing which you thought, yeah, okay, it's probably worth a go, and it just makes it through, and then you film it, and it's like, it worked brilliantly, and you never knew it would work that well. You get it happening the other way, so you just kind of, basically what you do is you just film
Everything.
Hopefully some of it
works. And about 25% of it works. You chuck the other 75% out.
And never tell anyone about it.
Never tell anyone about it.
Until what? That didn't happen. We didn't know.
Yeah.
That's not what you're talking about. So look at the bin.
Yeah. I would say more doesn't work than works when you film it. But anyway, yeah.
Going back slightly, obviously you were writing a lot. And
Yes.
Possibly not performing as much. Where did those two things kind of change a little bit for you?
Yeah, I think when Xander and I started doing our stuff, we started doing our double. So there were a couple of sketch comedy clubs that started, and we would perform our. It was really I was doing it because I couldn't get my sketches done, so we sort of started an act. I thought, well, if no one will perform them, I'm going to perform them. At least we're going to do them.
Yeah.
And so that was the sort of motivation, and then I kind of I wrote a radio show, and I did a one-man show as well. I did a show about John Noakes, who was like, I'm really into Blue Peter, so I did a sort of one-man show about what had happened, about the life of John Noakes.
That sounds quite. Was it tragic? It had a tragic edge to it?
It was. Well, John Noakes hadn't been on TV for a while at the time, and I went and tracked him down. And I had this very funny ending to the show where it looked like I faked it, but it wasn't John Noakes. And at the end, because I was following this guy around. He was living on Mallorca. So I was following him around Mallorca, and you could just about catch the
club DJ
back of his head, or it did, yeah. Piece of Purvis on the ones and twos. Yeah. Leslie Judd on the podium.
It's writing yourself.
And at the end it was sort of revealed that it was him, and that used to get a great reaction. It was fun for that reason. But I sort of started getting into it more, and then I discovered I really liked acting. So I hadn't done any acting at school or anything, so it was really just through doing acting in sketches. And our thing was always to try and act them as well as we possibly could. Act them like they weren't really. They weren't like we weren't in a comedy sketch. We were actually playing that part kind of thing, and that gives it's a dangerous thing to do. So you get a taste for acting as well. Yeah. So then I sort of got more into acting, But it was really through writing for me. I didn't set out with I'm going to be a performer or something.
No, but there's always that. Often that concept of writing stuff for yourself,
Yes.
Did it come? Yeah. It came to that point for you that you were actually writing, material for yourself to perform.
Yeah, because no one else would perform it.
Yeah, but that often does happen, doesn't it?
Yeah. I think it's quite. I think it's quite common, and I think, you start out bad. It's fine. It's fine. You know what I mean? Because I think then you. Some of my favourite comedians started out really bad. Do you know what I mean? It's outrageous to say it now, but I saw Eddie Izzard when he was bad. And he became, I think he is probably the best stand-up I've ever seen. And I think weirdly, being bad is actually quite a good start in comedy, because it means you're at least not copying somebody else. You're doing your own thing. You just haven't figured out how to do it yet. And, in Eddie Izzard's case, I'd never seen anybody do anything as bad as he did. It was one of the worst performances I've ever seen. Yeah, it was terrible. It was awful. He wasn't sticking to. He didn't seem to have jokes. He wasn't even sticking to the point. It seemed like if a fly buzzed past, he'd start talking about the fly, and you just think this is desperate. Yeah. And then I went to see him about a year later, and he was the best comedian I've ever seen. But because he was coming from a position of originality, that's the thing. It's kind of. I think that's doesn't just go for him. I was like lots of other, because when I started, there wasn't any. I had to do stand up. I was doing stand up as well.
Okay, yeah.
Because I'm a terrible stand up, but that was the only option available. So I had to make some money somehow, and so many of the people that I was doing stand up with, and I think if you do stand up for any length of time, it's not the people who start. Some people are just great straight out of the box, but there's a lot of people who struggle to find their thing, and then they find something that's extraordinary, and it really takes off.
Yeah.
Harry Hill was the same. Harry Hill's first show in Edinburgh was a bit sort of touch and go. It was a bit kind of, he was like in a box or something. It was a bit weird. It was kind of wasn't. And then a year later, he was Harry Hill. It was like, oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah. I think there's a allowing yourself to be bad. And I think it can probably be applied to lots of creative industries as well, actually, not just sort of comedy and stand-up. Allowing yourself to be bad and sort of working through it and not giving up.
Well, because not giving up is crucial, but it's also doing what you think is good.
Yeah.
Doing what you think is good. Not trying to imitate other people, but sticking with what you think is good and figuring out how to make that work. Because the chances are you're not wrong. If you think it's funny, the chances are it is funny. You just got to figure out how to communicate that. And maybe it's not a stand-up joke. Maybe it's a sketch, or maybe it's a novel, or maybe it's something else. But if figuring out, even within, say, sketches, say it's a sketch, but figuring out how you do that. Is it done? How are you going to get the audience to see it the way you see it? That's the trick.
I did Logan Murray's stand-up course when I first started out. And one thing stuck with me. You said there's no such thing as a bad joke, just an underwritten joke.
Yeah.
I think that's so true. It can go in a different way, and as long as you find what it is that makes you funny from that, it will eventually get there.
Yeah, and probably be better than anything else. Any mother-in-law joke that somebody might tell in a club, it will end up being much, much funnier.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny when you do anything. Anything like, for example, I've been doing some talks for this. I've been doing these children's events, basically. I did one at the Cambridge Book Festival, like last weekend.
Oh,
and
I've done that one.
Which is a great festival.
Yeah,
it's a great, amazing festival. And, so there's all this... It's an odd... the audience is what it is. It's kids between 8 and 11 and their parents, possibly their grandparents. Yeah. That's quite a... I mean, I don't have a lot of experience with that audience.
It's a tricky audience.
It's tricky.
Okay,
And it's tricky because everyone's on a different level. There's jokes that make the adults laugh, that the kids won't laugh, and blah blah blah. But anyway, I had like a clicker, to click the PowerPoint kind of thing that I was going to go through, and it didn't work.
Oh, I had the same problem at Cambridge.
Yeah, well, maybe it's the. Well, they were telling me
they haven't fixed it, because I was thinking actually I had a technical issue there as well.
Yeah, a huge technical issue. It didn't work. So sometimes it would click on like 2 slides, or then it would go. But it would, and it was like, and you try and go back, and it would go back to like 6 slides. So you've been in the right place. So you were, whatever you did was wrong and really bad. And it actually became
sort it out, Cambridge Literature Festival.
Exactly.
If you're listening,
it actually became the thing that brought us all together, because we were all in the same situation. We had a good laugh about it, and it was kind of funny, and it kind of and it then became like a running joke all the way through. Like, let's see what happens now.
What are we going to get next?
So it's. What I'm trying to say in a roundabout way is that I think it's is that a funny, if I'd set out, would I have asked for the clicker not to work? No, absolutely I wouldn't. As far as I was concerned, that was a disaster at the start of the thing, and this is going to ruin my talk. But, you kind of, I was wrong. That actually turned out to be the thing that held it all together. And without that, it probably would have been a disaster.
Just to record, mine was a disaster.
What was yours? What was your?
So it was a picture book. So called Little Bell on the Moon, which is about loss and grief. So it's quite a heavy subject for little ones as well. So it's very tricky.
What age?
Well, like Key Stage 1. So you're talking 5, 6 year olds.
Right. Yeah.
And so very young. And this poignant music and stuff, none of it worked, and it just fell flat on its face, really.
And what do you do in that situation?
I just ended up reading the book.
I bet they loved that. I bet they loved it.
It was fine. It was fine.
See.
It was fine.
Yeah.
The adults were like, "Oh, this is rubbish." But that's fine.
Yeah. I think I know that book, Little Bear and the Moon.
Yeah.
Hey, Little Bear. Puts his arm. Yeah.
No, Little Bell and the Moon.
Little Bell.
Yeah, Little Bell and the Moon. Yeah.
Don't know that.
You don't know one, yeah. No. Not a lot of people do.
No, I don't. I'm not familiar with this
you enjoying writing the children's books?
Yes, very much so. Yeah, I think there's a well-trodden path, weirdly, from doing sort of comedy and sketches into writing children. I mean, a lot of my favourite, Spike Milligan. I loved Spike Milligan when I was a kid. I loved his books. Too, Terry Jones wrote some brilliant children's books. And it's interesting now, isn't it? Still got David Baddiel and David Williams, David Williams, Miranda Hart. So many people. So many comedians doing it. I don't know what the connection would be, apart from I suppose that.
But you are
kids
writers,
like
aren't
a laugh. Yeah, you are writers.
Yeah.
And
I think that's a misconception. Oh, the celebrities doing a book, but actually you're writers, and I think people need to sort of understand that a little bit more. Sometimes.
Yeah, but that is interesting, isn't it? It's because it's one of the things about comedy. I suppose because it's supposed to, when you do it, it's supposed to look like there's been no preparation at all. So people therefore think there was no preparation. I had the same thing. I went to a book awards where I was like presenting. It was like presenting you present an award for the book for whatever. And Sebastian Faulks got up sort of after me and slagged me off. Like, what was I doing at a book awards? I'm not a writer. And you kind of think, well, yeah. But comedy is written. We do write it. There's a script.
Yeah.
And you do.
Yeah.
But then I kind of think, well, maybe it's better just left being mysterious. Do you know what I mean?
Smoke and mirrors.
Because you kind of think, well, maybe. But if Sebastian Faulks thinks that comedy's not written, I mean, I do slightly. It's a bit worry.
I was going to say that's a bit worry.
I mean, when he goes to see Macbeth, does he think they're all sort of amazing? I mean, the guy. I mean, it was just
night after
night, soliloquy after soliloquy. It was extraordinary. Where does he get his ideas? I mean,
it is a shame,
but.
That I guess some of the maybe the more high end kind of authors and stuff do take offence or umbrage with people that are in the public eye.
Yeah. I mean, I have to say, I got a frisson of excitement on the night because I very rarely get any kind of punchy reaction from fellow. You're at an awards thing. It's pretty. Talk about running on the rails. I mean, those kind of things. It's like people just pretty much usually reading whatever's written on the card or the autocue kind of thing. So
he obviously felt very strongly to talk about it.
Yeah, exactly.
In his speech or whatever.
And I think there is. I mean, but I think in any profession, I think in acting, anything, not so much in comedy. You don't tend to get people coming into comedy who've never done any comedy, and like, do you know what I mean? You get the odd one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Who sort of, I suppose the best example would be Ricky Gervais, sort of came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And the last minute, and just got into comedy, and I'll do stand-up. And he's like, it's brilliant at stand-up.
Arenas,
yeah. It's like, that's really, really unusual.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm looking forward to seeing Sebastian Faulks down the backyard comedy club doing his routine about Cats and Dogs, London Underground.
When he's up for a comedy award and you're presenting.
Exactly.
I remember that time.
Yeah. Yes, I remember when Sebastian wrote thoughtful literature.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a bit more grit in the oyster at these events is not unwelcome.
No.
But also, I guess having, doing performing and comedy and acting and being out there, obviously this was like an extreme example, but you are open to criticism.
Yes, of course.
Sort of part
Totally.
Part of the job. How do you, how do you sort of take it?
Badly. But personally, as in the case of Sebastian Faulks, I mean, I think there's always an assumption that you're not going to take it personally.
Song.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just watch the movie again. The one that bankrupted Phil Moore. Actually, that's not really proper Sharda project, but it's not his fault, is it? But yeah, but yeah, you know, I did include birdsong in a screenplay I was writing. I made sure that I had a character who just birdsong was his favourite book.
Oh, so it's like his
so that other people could argue against him constantly. Yeah, I mean, put it in. You know, that's the thing, isn't it? Take it and use it.
Yeah,
you know, but I still remember the. I always think anything that makes you angry or gets a reaction out of you. That's good. That's good fodder for your art. Try and find out what part of it really, really annoys you and irritates you, and then see if you can tap into that. Yeah. But I think. But on the other hand, I don't mind reading reviews. I do read reviews. I don't hide from reviews and stuff like that. I find that some of the best, because sometimes the criticism is good, and people won't tell, and reviewers can be smart, and they can spot things that you haven't spotted, or they'll put it in a context that you'd never put it in, because you're only working on your little thing and you don't see it as a part of a broader, as a where it sits amongst everything else. And for example, some of the shows we've done, there've been things that people have written and you kind of think, yeah, actually that's right, we need to change that, we need to do that. My rule is always, if it chimes with something I already thought myself but didn't want to admit to myself, then that's fine. Then I'll happily take it. And if I didn't think it, then I'll just take it really personally and bear a grudge.
Forever.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Sebastian.
Yeah, exactly. But you see, that in itself makes me laugh, because of all people to have a sort of to be bristling at the thought of Sebastian Faulks, that's a funny. It's funny. I mean, I do find it's funny. It's very funny that I'm kind of quite pissed off at the guy who wrote Birdsong. Because he said something. Because he's
which used to be my favourite.
Because he slagged me off at an awards, which seriously used to be one of my favourite books. Yeah.
That almost does sound like a sketch that you've
It is
written.
a funny. It is a very funny. It's a funny thing, That's a. Yeah.
So acting, that's obviously kind of what you do a lot more.
Yes. Yeah.
How do you enjoy that aspect of your career? Just the acting and not being so involved in the sort of creative part of it.
Yeah, I mean it's immensely enjoyable. Yeah, I mean it's about the most fun you can. I mean it's free fun acting. You're literally pretty much. I mean, I find like. Part of my joy is like I didn't have to write this. Someone else has written this. This is great. You know what I mean? And particularly if it's, and I've been lucky, and I've been doing things that I've been able to do things that I really really like, which makes a huge difference. I don't know how it would be. I don't know how good I would be at acting. Because I think there's this certain kind of acting where you are sort of doing stuff that you don't necessarily think is that great. I think that's probably a lot harder, and I would find that trickier. But I find that I really really enjoy it. And one of the things I really like about it is that I think too much, and you just can't think when you're acting. You can't. It's like you have to. Your mind has to be a total blank, and you have to. You're literally. Make believe, isn't it? You're literally just pretending with other grown-up people. I mean, it's like it's such a weird job. It's so weird that we all do that and enjoy that.
Buy into it.
But do you really immerse yourself in those moments? So when you're on set and stuff.
Yeah, immerse it. I really get into it. Yeah, I really really enjoy it, and I really like. Yeah, I really like the idea of. Of getting into a character, and it took me a long time to realise that every different actor prepares in a different way, just like every different writer and every different comedian. For some reason I thought, although if you're backstage a comedy show, some people will be just very chatty, making jokes. Other people are sitting there on their own, going through their stuff.
Yeah.
Still, other people are on their phones doing stuff. So, everybody prepares in a different way. Some people are literally running through what they're going to say, and others, everybody does it in a different way. And I don't know why I thought actors were different. They've all done some mystical preparation that I've never been aware of, and I don't know what it is they're doing, and I'm the only one that's sort of not prepared. And I kind of took me a while to sort of figure out that your own, whatever you go through to do it, is perfectly fine. And you only really learn that when you direct other actors, because then you suddenly realise that everybody's got a totally different approach to it. Some people, some people are like completely in character. Other people don't even want to think about what they're going to do before they go on, and so that was a real eye opener to me. Was that to direct people and realise, oh wow, there isn't a way of doing this, just like there isn't a way of being a human being. I mean, it's it's just like everybody has a different approach. And I feel like with acting, it's like with all these things, you're always playing a different character, so you're always learning something about, you're always doing something you haven't done before. I find that really, I find it, it's the best antidote to sitting on your own in a room and write that you can possibly imagine. And everything's done for you. What I love about acting is you have zero responsibility. You're not even responsible sort of for the time you wake up in the morning. If you're late down, they send the car at 4:30 for you, and if you're not in the car by 4:45, that's not your fault. That's someone else's fault because you didn't.
Someone else has got sacked.
Yeah. And literally, from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep, nothing is your responsibility. So it's an amazing feeling.
Well, you're the talent.
You're not responsible. And I guess the thinking is that some actors are not particularly functional, so they need to literally take them to the toilet and take them out of the toilet. But somebody's there to do that all day. If you say, I'd quite like to go to the toilet, somebody say, I'll come with you. Walk with you. Some 23-year-old will walk with me, a 53-year-old man, to show me where the toilet is and make sure that I can find my way back afterwards. Are you all right? They do. Are you okay in there? Yeah. But everything from and then your everything. It's kind of it's sort of.
But I guess that frees you to do the work.
To concentrate.
It does, yeah. It frees up. It's great. It's absolutely brilliant. It's a really, really great way to work. It is, because you're there. So you only have one purpose when you're there, which is to do that performance.
So is that difficult to come out of when you go back to normal life?
I think it can. I think it can. Yeah, I think it can. If you're not careful, it can sort of bleed over into. Particularly when I first did it, I used to find that I would whoever my girlfriend was at the time, I would be having the same conversations with her that I was having in the arguments that I was having in whatever show it was that I was doing. Whatever piece it was that I was doing. And I think I kind of, after a while, you sort of, I think maybe with a bit more experience, you tend to do that less. But I think it's very hard for it not to have some sort of effect. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I can walk you to the toilet if you want.
Yeah.
Wasn't it Peter Sellers that who obviously stayed in character for a long time after he would finish roles? He ended up marrying Britt Ekland. And then, like, several months later, he was like, "Oh, what am I doing married to Britt Ekland?" But he'd married her because he was so immersed in his character.
He was married,
and then they got divorced very soon afterwards because he was so immersed in it. It's bizarre, isn't it? But I suppose if you are really, 24/7 almost in that...
I think that can easily... I mean, people often do fall in love, don't they, while they're playing parts, that's definitely a thing. People end up in relationships and in couples, and sometimes that's sometimes that's a good thing, and other times you think, I'm not sure they'd be doing that if they weren't in this play together.
Well, it's very intense, isn't it?
It is, it is. And your social life, particularly I think if you're doing a play, your social life becomes so restricted. It's really just those people that you're seeing. So I think
Yes, I mean, we talked to David Morrissey about that, didn't we? That family, because he does a lot of plays, and it's that you get that instant family, and then you do this thing for like 6 months or whatever it might be, and then suddenly you leave that family behind and you go and find a new family, and it's kind of, it's just very transient, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's particularly that case with plays. I've done very few plays, but they are very. The best thing about them is that company feeling, that kind of that camaraderie of it all. Yeah, I mean that's. Yeah, and funnily enough, if I see any of the people that I was in those plays with, they're kind of like a long lost relative.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, that is a great.
But that must be even more so if you're sort of on location. So for Death in Paradise, so you sort of living out there when you're doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I got very close with the regulars in that show. Yeah, with Danny and Gary and Sarah. Yeah, you're just spending so much time together, and people are coming. And we were always there for about 7 months because you'd get there early.
Wow.
You'd get there before filming starts.
Yeah,
and you'd be doing the preps. You get there during prep, so it was about 7 months for us, and. Every 2 weeks there's a different cast coming out. That'd be really, really good fun. There's a whole load of people who just sort of new to the island, kind of like Love Boat kind of thing. Every 2 weeks, a new episode of Love Boat. And but then we'd be there sort of week in, week out, and it was you really you get very close with people. And it's funny, you might not see them again, but it is like a. You're not going to see them again on that same regular basis, but there's that bond. I mean, if I see Gary Carr or Danny John-Jules or Sarah Martin, we've got a huge connection from having spent all that time on that weird island. Yeah, because that is really strange. That's a really strange job. Because you imagine you kind of think everyone's idea is that you think, well. And certainly mine was. It's like Caribbean was where I went on holiday. It's like, oh my God, I'm going to film the Caribbean. This is going to be amazing. Yeah. And of course, you get out there and it's amazing. It's Caribbean. It's a desert island. I'm on a desert island. It's amazing. I live by the beach. I live in the Caribbean.
It's my job.
Yeah. Literally, it's my job. I can't believe this. I can't believe this. I can't believe I'm still here. And you get to like 5 weeks. Because when you know about 2 weeks off holiday, you think I could do another week. Yeah. Could you do another week? And you could stay for another week on holiday. 3 weeks, you'd be thinking. I think I want to go back to see my friends, see my family. So when you're there 5 weeks, and it goes longer and longer and longer, and then you're there 4 months, and then you're there 5 months, and then you're there 6 months, and you're like, wow, there's nothing here. There's a beach. And I live in London. I live in London. I like coffee shops and newspapers and people being rude to me on public transport. I can't deal with this weird island thing where everybody knows, because only about 6 people live there, and everybody gets to know you pretty much. Everybody pretty much who lives. Everybody who lives on Guadeloupe. I mean, it's strange. It was a really strange. I gather it's quite similar on that Scottish show. The what's that one about the laird who comes back and inherits the Monica the Glen?
Yeah, Monica.
So a bit of a similar thing there, except of course you could get home. In the Caribbean, you're like, I could be home in about 4 days if I. If I really put my mind to it, I can be home in about 4 days. That's a bit strange.
You sort of notice the distance.
Yeah. So, but I gather it's a bit of a similar thing. You've got a kind of stir crazy kind of thing.
It's not sunny.
Not something you could probably do long term. Not for years and years and years.
Yeah, I think that. Well, I don't know. I mean, it's funny, isn't it? I think in my case, I don't have my family out there. And I think if you could, like Chris Marshall, who was after me, his family came out with him. I think it's a different vibe. But if you're not, if you've got young kids like I did at the time, I had a 9-month-old, my son was three months when I left, and 9 months.
Yeah,
that's really hard.
Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah. Not on me, but on my wife.
But yeah. Yeah. It's hard to be away from them, isn't it, for periods of time?
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes, most of the times it's great because you can all go and it's fantastic. It was like in that case, it was sort of that was kind of interesting. But I still loved doing it. It was still amazing. I loved that character, and I loved the weirdness of that show. I mean, the eternal revealing weirdness.
I love that show.
It's so funny. It's so funny, and I love the way you're not. It doesn't immediately present as a comedy. You know, what I mean, you sort of think this is
There's nuance there.
Yeah. You know, this is a drama, but it's a bit off. And then after a while, you sort of go, "Oh no, I guess
Get it now.
Oh, right, none of this is serious."
Well, Ben, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast.
Well,
We really
thank you
appreciate
so
your
much.
time. We normally round off by just getting our guests to give any advice to anyone listening that's having a blank moment, creatively or in life or whatever. We use that sort of as a translative word. Have you got any advice for anyone listening that might be
My advice about the blank moment is where you want to be, really. I mean, anything that doesn't start from a blank moment is probably not worth doing, because you're only really creating when you start from a blank. That's the only point at which it's real, and without it, it's not creativity. It's craft. It's not art. So unless there's nothing wrong with craft. Craft has its place in every creative sphere. But if you want to make something, you're going to have to be blank at some point. You're going to have to have the blank page, blank mind, and it is horrible. I mean, it's absolutely horrible, but there is no way through without it. And you will sometimes start your projects breezily, full of ideas, with a full sail. You will sooner or later meet that blank moment, and that blank moment is actually a sign that you're on the right track. Because if you are not, that's a sign that you're creating. That's a sign that you're creating something. But like I say, nothing good comes without the blank first.
Brilliant stuff. Also,
good,
fuck you, Sebastian Faust.
Too
tempting.
From that spiritual promontory.
I told you, we
that
don't do
invitation
links.
on the podcast.
We don't do links.
Yeah.
Ben Miller, it's been an
Awesome.
absolute pleasure.
Thank you
having
so
you.
much. Thank you. Brilliant.
Well, that was Ben Miller.
It was
on the
indeed.
record.
What a nice guy. What a
Lovely
really
guy,
nice
yeah.
Yeah.
Really good energy.
Got a
Remember
great,
saying,
had a great laugh. Had a
very
really
good laugh,
strong laugh.
very infectious laugh. I
Yeah.
mean, I did find myself laughing quite a lot when he was laughing. Yeah,
I think you can learn a lot about someone from their laugh.
yeah, and it was a genuine laugh.
Yeah,
so it
this
wasn't
is the thing.
it wasn't like a nervous laugh
No,
or
it was a
sort
good
of
one.
forced laugh. It was
Sort
a
of
proper,
person that if I heard that laugh at a party, I'd sort of want to gravitate towards him.
Yes, you'd wander over there. Why has he got everyone round him?
Yeah. Whereas when I laugh, it sounds like a sort of hyena. Someone stepped on a hyena's foot or something.
Oh right, yeah,
But I'm working on it.
yeah, I would.
There, told you.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much, Ben, for being on the pod. A decent pod to start 2020, I think.
Very decent indeed.
And this is the part where we read out some lovely tweets. Now, we get some wonderful tweets from people. We're very lucky indeed. And I'm going to read one out for you now.
We've got some really good ones.
We can cut this bit. I did see a couple the other day, actually.
good ones today. There was one that was like, there's one about insomnia.
Okay, that one. Using my insomnia. The wow moment. Okay, I'll do Michelle. You do Rima. I've got one here from Michelle at Sheb Shelley, who says, "I've lost count of the inverted commas wow moments I had listening to David Morrissey on Blank Podcast. Life and its lows explained in a way I wish I could. Wonderful podcast. Thank you." That was a good podcast, wasn't it?
Oh, David Morris was excellent.
Yeah, he really was. That was great.
Very engaging, man.
So thank you for that. That was a lovely tweet.
So we got a tweet here from Rima Dreamer, and she's saying,
good handle.
What a great hand, yeah. So using my insomnia to listen to podcasts, interviewing two of my favourite women, Dawn French on the Blank Pod, and also as a shout out to Jay Rayner and his excellent podcast, Out to Lunch. She's been listening to that one with Kathy Burke.
Oh,
I
lovely.
love you both, she says. So it's a really good pod, that one.
Kathy Burke would be a great guest.
I know. She's on the list.
Oh, amazing. Well, these are wonderful tweets. Thank you. We get so many nice tweets, and on it, they do. Sometimes when I'm having a, not a brilliant day, I read some of our tweets, and they genuinely do pick me up.
I've actually got one more I'd like to read out. It's from Edie's Kitchen. So we've just discovered Blank Pod because of our fave, Dawn French, was on it, and it's seriously good. Such great interviews with lots of different topics. Seriously, subscribe and take a listen. What good advice.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Very, very kind for those lovely words from
you. Thank you, Edie's Kitchen. So if you'd like to tweet us and let us know your favourite episode, like these people have done, you can. Our handle is...
@BlankPod.
It is indeed. And we're also on Twitter and Facebook if you prefer those platforms. And the handle is exactly the same.
@BlankPod.
And you can email us if you'd like to. Our email address is...
theblankpodcast@gmail.com.
2018.
Oh, yeah.
I remembered.
Well done.
Yeah.
theblankpodcast2018 @gmail.com.
There you go. And that's it. Thank you very much for listening to this pod. We'll be back with another guest next week, but just leaves me to say have a great week, Giles.
And you, Jim.
Hey, thanks, mate. And to our listeners as well, and we'll see you again soon. Goodbye.